The Mystery of D.B. Cooper.
On November 24th, 1971, an unidentified man with the alias D.B. Cooper hijacked Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 going from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. He gave a note to a stewardess saying that he had a bomb and wanted her to sit next to him. He demanded $200,000 in $20 bills, 4 parachutes, and for the flight to be redirected to Mexico City at a low altitude. Then, a little after 8 p.m., he jumped out of the plane with the money and the parachutes to never be seen again. The story of D.B. Cooper is one of the greatest mysteries in United States history. Despite the countless theories surrounding D.B. Cooper, the greatest disappointment is the lack of change regarding airline safety and protocols that could have stopped more devastating and deadly plane hijackings in decades to follow.
The topic of D.B. Cooper connects to the theme of right and responsibility in determining what is right and wrong because it shows that airlines are responsible of keeping their passengers safe. The D.B. Cooper hijacking wasn't the first or last hijacking, but airlines should have now waited to start making change in regulations for airlines because tons of hijackings happened before and now changes were done after. Plane hijacking should have not been ignored back then because if they put in new safety rules, it could have prevented more hijackings and serious incidents. It is the right of plane passengers to be able to travel without having fear of hijacking or danger. They should feel as though they can trust the airline security while they are flying. The first ever recording of a hijacking was in 1931 when a plane was hijacked in Arequipa, Peru. Even with the lack of technology in 1930s, they did not have any rules in place for air traveling as it was fairly new at the time. Since this was the first hijacking, it should have been taken into consideration further to prevent any more from happening. Also, blades on its 4 inches used to be allowed on commercial flights, which shows a lack of responsibilities with the security back in those days. It is less likely for a plane to get hijacked because security got stricter.
In response to these hijackings, officials put in protocols aimed to stop hijackers from getting on the plane in the first place. Because of D.B. Cooper, the Cooper vane was created. The Cooper vane is a device attached to the plane stairs that make it impossible to open the stairwell during flights. Even with all of these improvements, many hijackings followed as people found new ways to avoid security. After 9/11, on November 19, 2001, the Aviation and Transportation Security Act was put in place. This act required more thorough baggage searches, reinforced cockpit doors, and more. The TSA was also put in place because of this act. Some may argue that they didn't do this earlier because of the lack of modern technology, but this matter should have been a government priority, and even with the lack of modern technology, other orders could have been put in place. It should not have been easy for him to fake his identity if more rules weren't in place. From 1971 to 1981, there were 343 hijackings with 342 fatalities, but from 2001 to 2011, there were only 42 hijackings with 4 fatalities, not including 9/11, following change of protocols after the incident. Some theories of who people think D.B. Cooper is a person named Richard McCoy Jr., a former military pilot. Richard McCoy had hijacked a plane on April 7th, 1972, 1 year after D.B. Cooper hijacked a plane in 1971. Richard McCoy Jr. was killed by the FBI at his home. McCoy has lots of similarities, including the details of the hijacking and the sketches of D.B. Cooper resembling him. People still do not know if D.B. Cooper is dead or alive, but one of the primary suspects is Richard McCoy Jr.
Though the identity or fate of D.B. Cooper was never discovered, the large fear following this and other early hijacking was a lack of action taken by officials to prevent further occurrences. It shows how dangerous the lack of security can be. D.B. Cooper is an early example of the importance of safety. Because of him, some rules were put in place, but not strong enough to prevent further hijackings. Besides 9/11, this is one of the most famous hijackings in history. This case stands as a reminder that ignoring occurrences where safety is jeopardized puts us at risk for even worse attempts in the future. The story of D.B. Cooper will never be forgotten.